54 countries, over 2,000 languages, but united with similar interests. As news breaks, we give you in-depth analysis around Africa every Monday on Core TV News. DR Congo got their independence in 1960, same with some other parts of African countries, and of course, but their independence was gotten from France. And after that, things started going very well in that part of the country until when they had their first civil war. And of course, after the Rwandan genocide, there have been another trace of civil war that took place in 1996, and up to date, DR Congo is still yet to go back or to get to where they used to be. Now, there have been allegations of what the fight in DR Congo has been all about. There have been lots of international community, both in Africa and, of course, across the borders, interested in the situation in DR Congo. Rwanda has been penciled down as one of the countries, Uganda as well, some of the countries making things very tough in DR Congo. And of course, don't forget, there have been allegations of United States of America fueling the situation. On the program today, we'll be digging deep and of course look at the blame game that has been going on in DR Congo. My name is BROWNSON and this is Around Africa. Good to have you. And joining me on the program is Victor Hokai. Victor, good to have you on the program.
Thank you for having me.
DR Congo, very interesting. I've taken time to look at the history of that part of the country, and of course, they're very rich. And before we came on air, you made me understand how much resources they have, that combining like 5 European countries together.
I didn't say 5, I said the whole of the US and the whole of Western Europe.
And Western Europe
combined yes,
together.
Yes.
Now, the resources that can go through this all this region is bestowed in one country.
One country. In fact, the value of minerals in the Congo is estimated at over $24 trillion.
Now, what would you say the crisis now is all about? Could it be about the resources? Because unlike what we have in Central African Republic or South Sudan, where we can say, okay, these certain people are fighting for power. These people are, but in DR Congo, it's different. What would you say the problem is?
It's about power as a means to getting the resources. So it's about the resources primarily. But to get the resources, you've got to have power. Okay? I'm sorry to shock you, but the crisis in the Congo will not stop soon. And the reason is simple. There are two, apart from the almost uncountable mineral resources you have there are two in particular. One is a derivative of the other. Coltan, I think it's called. This particular mineral, and then the other one, tantalum. These particular minerals are so critical for electronics, smartphones, but more importantly, for the military sector. Tantalum, for instance, is a mineral that endures temperature probably up to 200 degrees centigrade. Okay, you know what? 100 degrees is like boiling point, right? You can imagine something that, your smartphones get hot very quickly. Now, this is something that can endure up to 200 degrees of heat. Now, this is very, very important for particularly the military sector. And particularly when you have things like modern technologies like drone and the rest, they require these things. And many military hardware. And because America does not have these minerals, obviously they've got to get it from somewhere. Now, where do you get it from? The only place, Congo alone has about 80% of this coltan, this particular mineral. Like I said, tantalum is a derivative from that particular mineral. It has 80% of it is in this particular country, this region, this particular country. And so that's the only place to get it. How will they have access to this? The only way to have access to it is to fund militia. Many of these companies, for instance, Western companies, for instance, don't have their own private army. So they have to fund militia who will now open the doors for them to go in there and plunder. We make so much noise about, blood money don't get, but I mean, These people don't care.
Now, who's responsible? Is it, would you say it's probably poor governance?
It's not about poor governance, because even the government itself is neck deep in this. It is favorable for someone like Kabila, for instance. So he can loot. As long as you don't have peace there, the man can steal and do whatever he wants to do. Who is going to hold him responsible? And he has active collaborators. You know, there's a particular Israeli partner. He has a very close friend of his, Getler, with whom, I mean, they just literally plunder the country's economy. So it's in the interest, even the government, although they're doing what they can, but what is happening is in the interest of, except for the common man, is in the interest of both the West and the people in government.
Now, there have also been an allegation of the M23. What do you understand by M23?
M23 is a militia that is people that is populated mainly by principally Rwandan and then Ugandan military. You know, so the M23, you might call it a rebel group or whatever, is what it is really is Ugandan and Rwandan troops. And they're the ones that are, that's what M23 basically is about. And they, unfortunately, are, you know, undermining the territorial integrity of DRC.
Now, M23, of course, they've said it got their roots from Rwanda. And of course, most of this army that joined the M23, they're the Hutus after the Tutsi government took power. And of course, looking at what happened in 1994, the genocide that killed almost 800,000 people. And of course, after that, and when Paul Kagame and his government, you know, took over Rwanda, you know, they were scared. And then they ran away because they thought, okay, the Tutsi are in power, they might hurt us. And then, you know, they ran. But now, another report is also saying that apart from this other military group, this other Hutus that joined the army, the Rwandan government is also interested in what is happening. But
they are funding. They are funding M23. They are. You know, it's in the interest for them to do that fight outside. It's not a problem. The interest, you see, there's a particular region in Eastern Congo called Kovia, I think. This is an area that even the U.S. is interested in, and if problem can escalate to a point that they wish it to, Rwanda will want to annex that particular region because of its huge mineral potential. Because most of the minerals in the DRC are in that eastern part. You know, so for them, you know, as long as this goes on, they can plunder the economy of Congo. So, yeah.
And for the, of course, the Ugandans as well, there have also been allegations of Uganda joining force with Rwanda to fight the same. But don't you think these countries, looking at their own economy, that I think if you want to rate it, it's really nowhere compared to some other parts of Africa. Don't you think this government should you know, probably concentrate in building their countries?
They are responding to their ogre at the top, the U.S. The U.S. is dictating. The U.S. is sending them on this mission. And they are responding. That's what they're doing, basically. They are stooges of the United States. They are the footmen, the foot soldiers. As long as they can go there and make sure that there's no stability in that country, America can continue to fund its military and defense industry. They can continue to fund their electronics. You know, in fact, it is said that if the Nuremberg Commission were still on today, that the first people they would grab that would be sent to the gallows would probably be the leaders in the US and the UK, for instance, for what they're doing. And then following will be the Rwandan and the Ugandan presidents. Because this is genocide. This is mass killing that is going on.
Can we call it genocide?
Oh, of course. What else are I going to call this? What else are I going to call this? These people are being plundered every. There's no reason for the DRC to be in the state that it's in today. There is no reason for it. I mean, even with the intervention of course, there's a bit of stability right now with the UN forces, MONUC, or what is it called again, on ground. But as you and I know, what is going on is still going on. You know, the only stability there is just the fact that okay, the Congolese army and the UN combined forces have managed to create a bit of stability and peace, but it still doesn't stop the plundering. Because in the flanks, look at the eastern part, you know, the plundering is still going on. You know, the rebel forces are still there. The Rwandan government, the Ugandan government, all they're doing, who is there to stop them? Who is there to stop them?
Now, there have been reports of rape at a very high level going on in that part of the countries, and there have been lots of human rights activists, international human rights activists that have really, you know, come in, you know, to see how they can protest against it. But the force in DR Congo, you know, cannot really help them to do enough. But now, looking at it, do you think when it comes to, do you think international community have really, you know, done well to, you know, help, especially, we understand the abuse, from the war apart, rape itself, it's
dehumanizing,
it's dehumanizing, and of course the trauma it leaves the victims, you know, could last for a lifetime. Do you think the international community have really done well to, you know, secure the women interests?
What is happening is like a little too late, because I mean, yes, they have come to see the UN forces are there now, but the rape still continues, and the rape just seems to be like a deliberate thing. To, you know, that is also by itself psychological warfare. You find situations where fathers are forced to rape their daughters, where 5-year-old boys are made to watch as probably their sisters and their mothers are being raped. You know, what kind of impression do you think this is going to leave on them? They live with this for a whole lifetime. So this is going on a daily basis. You find recruitment of child soldiers and all that by rebel groups and all that. So this is an ongoing thing, and I don't know what the African Union, you know, I don't think even they have done enough to see, because if we truly are brothers keepers, I would expect them to have been able to stop Uganda and Rwanda from the various military incursions they've been making into the DRC. But not much has been done in that direction.
It's a very sad one, but at this point we'll go for a break. When we come back, we'll look at the role of the international community in the bid to stop the crisis going on in DR Congo. That will be after this time out. Stay with us. One continent, 54 countries, over 2,000 languages, but united in similar interests. As news breaks, we give you in-depth analysis around Africa every Monday on Core TV News.
So there's no question that Africa's on the move. But it's not moving fast enough for the child still languishing in poverty in forgotten townships. It's not moving fast enough for the protester who's beaten in Harare, or the woman who's raped in eastern Congo. We've got more work to do, because these Africans must not be left behind. And this brings me to the final area where our partnership can empower people: the pursuit and protection of peace in Africa. So long as parts of Africa continue to be ravaged by war and mayhem, opportunity and democracy cannot take root. Across the continent, there are places where too often fear prevails. From Mali to Mogadishu, senseless terrorism all too often perverts the meaning of Islam, one of the world's great religions, and takes the lives of countless innocent Africans. From Congo to Sudan, conflicts fester, robbing men and women and children of the lives that they deserve. In too many countries, the actions of thugs and warlords and drug cartels and human traffickers hold back the promise of Africa, enslaving others for their own purposes.
Welcome back. You're still watching Around Africa on Core TV News, and of course I'm BROWNSON. UNWANA. Still with me in the studio is Victor Ohai, an African Affairs analyst, and of course the destination for today's program has been DR Congo. And of course the crisis in DR Congo, it's I think it's a cause for concern for everyone that really has human feelings for the injustice that's happening in that part of the country. Other than the war and of course the fight for the natural resources, I think the rights of women in that part of the continent is has been abused and is still being abused. And Victor, it gives me cause for worry. Sometimes when we look at United Nations and the activities, they have different departments, different sections that takes care of different things. But then bringing it down to DR Congo, do you think United Nations has really done justice to what's happening there?
The United Nations is only able to work to the extent that it is empowered by those who are in charge. Let me put it that way. It's supposed to be a United Nations organization, but like we know, there are puppeteers that pull the strings, for the puppets. There are faces behind the masks. A force was set up recently, or not too long ago, comprising a regional, force comprising, I think it is Angola, Zimbabwe, Uganda, well, Rwanda itself, and which other country again, I can't quite remember. The idea is to be able to create a body that can ensure proper intervention to make sure that all the senseless killing is brought, to a halt. There's, how do I put it, relative peace, if you like, in the country right now, to the extent that they are in charge of both flights, communication, telecommunication, and all that to a very large extent now all over the country. They also have a radio station that broadcasts in about 5 local languages, Radio Okapi and so, with the UN force and all that. But you want to say to yourself, for this to work effectively, I think the greatest beneficiary of this is probably the government itself, whom I can't even say is as sincere as it should be. For the common man, yes, killings may have been reduced to a very large extent, but has the plundering stopped? Is the Congo able to, exploit its own resources for the benefit of its own people? And for the records, it is supposed to be the richest country, the wealthiest country in the world, but it has a GDP of, per capita of about $171. Now you want to say to yourself, look at it in Naira terms, you're talking about probably less than 30,000 or thereabouts for a whole year. And so you're talking about people surviving on less than maybe 2,000 something per month. How can you survive, with that kind of money? That's about less than 3,000 a month, Now, when you look at that, and yet there's so much potential, even in terms of oil, they have huge oil deposits. Now, is the country able to mine its resources? Is the country able to exploit its resources for the benefit of its people? The answer is no. Instead, what you find is the leaders are giving concessions to Western countries, Western companies, to their friends. I just told you about Getler, the Israeli. This guy got a prospecting license for about $500 and resold it back to the government without doing anything for about $150 million. Think about that. But you were going to ask me a question.
Okay, but have there really been any attempts to, to restore peace in this country?
There have been attempts. There have been several talks, starting from 2008-ish, 9-ish, and on. One of the rebels, Lauren Nkunda, I think it was his name, was a major rebel leader. Several attempts were made at peacekeeping. Sometimes they will be truncated, scuttled, and all that. They have attempted. But what I can say for now is, to a very large extent, the militia groups have been reduced. You used to have about close to 8, almost, how many? I can't even remember the number anymore, but to a very large extent, with the presence of the government forces and the UN forces, the number has been dropped significantly. So to that extent, you would say a lot has been done because they've been overpowered. but it's not been completely wiped off. The UN's presence there, along with the other joint forces of African military forces, have helped to a very large extent to see how some form of stability can be restored. So to that extent, I can say yes, a lot of efforts have been made. To a large extent, there has been a great reduction. You will agree with me, it's not like it used to be. A lot of the ceasefires have been violated, of course, but today it is better than it was in the recent past years.
Of course, one of the rebel group that have been penciled down as the key actor in this crisis is called the Kibumba rebels. They are one of the key group that are really fighting the DR Congo forces. And of course, looking at the whole situation, and sometimes it worries me when some of these people, now of course, DR Congo made claim that the proxy, like some countries, the big power using proxy to fight them, for just like what you've rightly mentioned. But do you see in any way that is there any chance or any way that you know, things can really be settled? Because like I wanted to say that the big nations, of course, apart from the United States of America, there are some other big countries that are supposed to be major powerhouse of the world, and they've really not been involved in this. Why?
But it's not in their interest to be involved. It's in their interest for the crisis to continue. When we started the program, I told you about, apart from the other resources that you had there, 2 resources and their strategic importance that will make sure that what they want, they do not get. Coltan and tantalum. I told you, for military hardware, for drones, for electronics, for computers, for smartphones. These people don't have these minerals in their countries, and the only way to get it and get it cheaply and to continue to finance their industries is for these things to continue. And I assure you, as these resources deplete, these resources deplete and the demand increases, you can be sure that this war will continue, because that is the only way that they can continue to get these resources, by plundering them. They need these rebels to go out there and plunder this and get it for them cheaply. So to that extent, you can't get peace in that country, not in the near future.
A very disappointing one, but we really hope that very soon something would be done. I'm sure we would have part 2 of this, just like we did in, of course, the Central African Republic, where we had part 2. I think there are still a lot of issues, but because of our time on the program today, we'll have to draw the curtain from here today. Thank you very much, Victor.
Thank you for
coming around. But for DR Congo, we want to wish them the very best and hope that African Union, I think we're not able to look at their role in all of this, but I'm sure in the part 2, look at the role of African Union. Thank you very much for being there. My name is BROWNSON. UNWANA. Very big thanks for watching.
You can now watch Core TV News live from anywhere in the world on our website, www.coretvnews.com. Click on Live TV on our website and watch us live.
And welcome to Core TV Primetime Days.
To follow us on Twitter, click on Twitter icon on our website. On Facebook, click on the Facebook and YouTube to see all our previous news production. You can also watch us live on YouTube. Click Core TV, leave a space, then News. Core TV News, a 24-hour news station.
One continent, 54 countries, over 2,000 languages, but united in similar interests. As news breaks, we give you in-depth analysis around Africa every Monday on Core TV News.